to On Your Bike. I'm your host, Scott Meredith. Our guest is Mike Hurty from A&S Cycles in Roseville, California. Let's talk with Mike. I know you've been in the motorcycle sales business for quite some time, and you have Vespa, Piaggio, and BMW on your lot?
That's correct.
Okay, so what we'll do is we'll talk about the Vespa, or the Piaggio Fly, because this is kind of an entry model, I presume. Right. What kind of person would ride this bike?
Well, this is the Piaggio Fly. This is the least expensive 150 scooter that we sell.
Right.
It's a really ideal scooter for the person that needs to commute without using the freeway, because its top speed is about 59 miles an hour.
Okay.
The kind of person that would ride this is typically a person who is mainly interested in transportation, but might occasionally, run over to Starbucks or go to the library to return a book, right. Short errands,
yeah.
as well as short commutes. By short, I mean up to 15 miles would be a pretty typical commute.
So you're talking of the urban?
Pretty much.
The urban, not
one of the reasons that the 150 is so popular is because it has enough capability to go on any surface street you're likely to encounter.
Right, yeah.
With a top speed of almost 60 miles an hour, you can keep up with traffic safely. Whereas a 50cc scooter, a little bit better for just downtown.
Yes.
This one is good for suburban as well.
Okay. Now this is a cool looking bike. I mean, they've got the styling really nice. What are the other features that you think would be best to point out?
Well, some of the great features of all scooters as a rule, and this scooter in particular, is a storage space. Take the key out of the ignition and open the seat. It's got a lot of room inside. You can put a helmet in there, depending on the helmet. Some won't fit, some are a little large. And there's enough room in there for a small bag of groceries, your lunch, or your shoes. A lot of women in particular like to wear nicer shoes when they're at work than they would ride on the street with.
So
they'll carry their extra shoes, maybe a sweater for later in the day when it gets cold, if it gets cold.
If it gets cold, yeah.
And a couple of small items will easily fit in there. In addition, many scooters have the capability for or come with a rack, either on the front and or the back.
Right.
Maybe a box on the back that's capable of holding a helmet and more. And most of them have glove compartments.
Wow.
On the Vespa and Piaggio scooters, that's accessed by pressing in on the ignition key.
Okay.
And as you can see, it's got a lot of room inside there for gloves, cell phone, miscellaneous.
So you can lock things away when you leave the bike,
exactly.
Go to a store, you can just put everything in there.
Yeah, and the Piaggio and Vespa scooters in particular, if you turn the handlebar to the left and turn the key, it locks the fork so that it's less likely to be stolen.
Fantastic.
In addition, many of the scooters have engine immobilizers.
Okay, now probably some people are thinking, well, I've never ridden a moped or a scooter before. Does it have gears? Is it very complex to ride? Tell us about that.
Simplicity of operation is the primary reason that people like scooters. You can get on it and learn to ride it in about 10 to 20 minutes as far as the basic mechanics of riding it.
Yes.
They have no gears to speak of. It's a CVT, or continuously variable belt transmission. As you turn the throttle toward you, it's like stepping on the gas in your car. You accelerate. As you push it away or relax your grip and let it spring back, it'll slow down.
Right.
And
so you don't have to worry about being in the right gear.
Not at all.
It's just like
You're
driving
always
an
in the
automatic
right
car.
gear. It's very simple because you don't even feel any shifting. It's not even like an automatic in a car where you can actually feel it shift in some cases.
Right.
It's absolutely smooth.
Braking, obviously, it's all right going, but how about stopping?
Braking is at least as important as stopping, as starting. Stopping is as important as starting.
Yeah.
This is the rear brake.
Okay.
This is the front brake. The trick is always use all your brakes all the time. Smooth, firm operation.
I noticed also when you flipped up the seat that the gas tank is in there.
Exactly.
Because the traditional gas tank is a normal bike. It's all underneath there.
On a traditional motorcycle, you step over it. One of the design criteria originally was tidiness. That's what Vespa came up with back in 1946 when they started making scooters. They wanted people to be able to ride them without getting dirty, hence the leg shield. It's one of the primary criteria of a scooter. Also, putting the gas under the seat in this case keeps it neat and tidy, and also harder to steal. As gas gets more expensive, sometimes that's an issue.
Absolutely, as gas prices rise. So, and also, I presume that this step through is for the female modesty.
Originally, it was intended that. Back in the 50s, many women still wore skirts or dresses all the time.
I think Audrey Hepburn did that.
Indeed, she did.
Yeah, that's cute.
And that would be for modesty. So you could step through without swinging your leg over, and you wouldn't be exposed if the wind were to blow. You would just flutter by, as it were. Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about maintenance and sort of running costs. What can somebody expect to do each year to run this?
Well, it depends on your mileage, because each scooter, like all motorcycles and most cars, has a maintenance schedule that's determined by the manufacturer to keep the vehicle in the best condition possible. In the case of the smaller scooters, that is the 150s and 250s, typically with the Vespa and Piaggio, it's about 2,000 mile interval.
Right.
So you would bring the scooter in every 2,000 miles, have an oil change, and various other maintenance chores done. Cost can run somewhere between $150 and up to $300 or $400, depending on what's actually being done at the time.
Right, okay. So any other special features of this particular model?
Well, one thing I like about this, this particular scooter, it's got really nice suspension in the front. It's got a telescopic fork.
Okay.
It has fairly wide tires for a scooter. This doesn't necessarily enhance its stability so much as its ease of moving it around and steering it. It also has some nice features like a passing light, and it's got a clock. So,
right.
you know, it isn't exactly high-tech by Jaguar standards or something,
sure.
but it's pretty nice.
But at least you'll know you're
scooter.
late for work.
Exactly.
Okay. So in terms of the wheel size, you said that the tires are quite wide,
right.
but the wheel diameter is actually quite small. Does that pose any particular problems for the first-time rider?
Not really. Okay. The stability of a scooter with small wheels is fine up to its rated speed. Right. If you were to try to ride, if you put a big engine in it or modified it in some way to make it go really fast, you probably could have some stability problems. But for the way it's designed, if you use it with its intended purpose, you'll be absolutely fine. Smaller wheels take a higher RPM to become completely stable. Right. So where a larger scooter might get stable at about 10 miles an hour, maybe this would be 12 miles an hour.
I see.
It's pretty minimal as far as everyday use is
Right.
concerned.
So I'm just thinking of maybe a 20-year-old woman using this as their daily commute. They're going to find this pretty easy to park, to maneuver in and out of parking spaces.
Right. It's extremely easy to maneuver. That's one of the main design goals and the main attractions of a scooter is they're easy to ride because their simplicity of operation and they're very maneuverable.
Okay, great. So let's move on to the more iconic Vespa styling.
The Vespa LX150 is Vespa's main traditional looking scooter.
Right.
It's the modern version of what all those old scooters like the Audrey Hepburn one you mentioned from the 50s. If you were to look at a picture of that scooter and this scooter, it would be obvious that this was more modern and sleeker, but the lineage is there. You can see the development of the scooter. What this one has that one doesn't have is a quiet, smooth running, easy to maintain 4-stroke engine that doesn't burn oil.
What did they used to have?
They had 2-stroke engines.
Okay.
2-stroke engines have the advantage of being very powerful for their size and quick accelerators, but they are maintenance intensive in that you have to monitor how much oil you've put in them so that they don't burn themselves up.
Right, yes. So this is a lot easier to maintain.
Much simpler.
Essentially the same engine as the one we were looking at previously, the Fly?
The Fly and the Vespa share the same size engine and the same power. So the main difference between them, the Vespa has all steel bodywork. In the case of the Vespa, the body is the frame. It's a monocoque chassis. It's all one piece, extremely strong and rugged and durable.
Right.
Where the Fly 150, much less expensive to make because it's plastic.
And I noticed that the seat on this one looks slightly longer. It probably isn't, but it looks like it's designed for 2 people.
It is. It is designed for 2 people. The capability of the scooter to carry 2 people is fine in town.
Yeah.
Again, at the higher speeds, depending on the weight and the size of the people, it can really make a difference at what your top speed will be.
But essentially this will give you the same riding pleasure as the Fly that we saw. Now I noticed that there are 3 different models here. They all look slightly different. This one's got a square headlight and some trick chrome bits there. This one has some extra trick chrome bits. Well, explain the difference between them.
The Vespa S is Vespa's newest scooter as far as design is concerned. It's exactly the same as the LX150 as far as the body, the engine, the power, the wheels, and so on. What's different? The look. It's got a square headlight, a little more chrome up there, a little fancier in the front. It's got, you can't see it from where you're standing, but it's got a different instrument pod.
Right.
And instead of a glove compartment on this one, as on this one has a pocket where you can just put things without having to open it and close it.
Right. Now, these 3 are essentially the same as the Fly, as I've said. Is there any difference in the running costs or insurance, stuff like that?
Maintenance and insurance should be similar in cost.
Okay.
Please go to episode 2 of On Your Bike.